Welcome back to the Hustle and Heal podcast, where hustling meets healing. I'm excited about this episode because I'm going to learn a lot. I have Kyron on to help us today. Today, he's going to talk about how our bodies and trauma mesh. Oh, that was horrible. How it will mesh together. How trauma sits into our body and helps. It locks us up. It holds us back from where God wants us to be, where we're supposed to be, our journeys, right? So Kyron, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, no problem. So let us know a little bit about your background and what got you here.
My background, I have a bachelor's in kinesiology. I
Mhm.
did my massage license, and I've taken several courses in kind of manual therapy. So I'm a manual therapist and a holistic health coach, trainer as well. Um, you know, I got into this field mainly because I had my own injuries. Got injured a bunch. Thought I was going to go into physical therapy, but decided to take a kind of a longer route to doing that. So I kind of do physical therapy, but a little bit differently. And then the other reason is because when I was about 17, I lost my father, and he had a lot of not only health issues, but also mental health issues, right? Like we're talking about trauma. He had a lot of trauma that caused him to overeat and not take care of his body, and ended up having two strokes. The second one that um, ended up with him passing away. It's kind of twofold: my own injuries, trying to help people with pain, and then also, a personal story with my father, you know, passing away at a very young age that he should have been a lot older. So that's kind of the background of kind of why I do what I do.
Yeah, that hey, sometimes those bad points will get you to where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
But let's talk about does trauma, like especially from childhood, because a lot of us, and me playing devil's advocate here, a lot of us have a lot of childhood traumas, known and unknown. So how
Mhm.
can that hold us back?
Yeah, there's several different ways that I kind of see it in my work. One is just it messes with your mindset. It gives you a perspective of, um, depending on what the trauma is, it can give you a perspective of like, I'm starting from, 10 steps back. Everyone else has it better than me or anything like that. It can also affect the way that you treat your body. Like if you have image issues, or if you have, issues with your relationship with food, that can also kind of get in the way and cause you to, make some progress. But then once you hit that point of, hitting that trauma, or getting to a point where, like the fear of, like quote unquote fear of success, right, can kind of get in the way. So those are some of the things that I see, especially with people wanting to lose weight. They have this trauma with food, especially so. Like going back to my dad, he had this scarcity mindset around food because he grew up in a poor area, and um, he didn't know when he was going to get his next meal. And so his whole idea was, if I have something in front of me, I'm going to eat everything and all of it right now because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. And so that trauma just kind of manifested later in life to him being well overweight and not taking care of his body. And so, um, you know, that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it, of like, um, a lot of times what we'll hear is like, we're not enough. We don't feel like we're enough. And that trauma of having that belief of having to almost like prove yourself over and over and over again, like we're talking about in this podcast, right? Hustle and heal. If we always are hustling, but we're never healing, then
Mm,
that, that hustle is for naught, right? And
yeah.
so, it can be very damaging. So there's a good way to hustle and there's a bad way to hustle, right? And so if we don't ever heal that trauma of like, I need to prove myself because my my parents said I was never enough, or social media told me I was never enough, or so on and so forth. And so, if we start to really look and dive deep into those traumas and heal those traumas, then everything becomes a little bit easier and more purposeful, I think.
I can agree with that. I've actually seen it in my own life because
Hmm.
I had like a really bad addiction to sugar, but it was because
Okay.
I watched my dad have a bad addiction to sugar.
Mm,
But I've also peaked in myself that the more I healed myself, like mentally and spiritually, the more weight I've been losing. So I can see where that
awesome.
correlates.
Yeah.
And, and it's crazy because you don't really think about it, and
Yeah.
we, like you said, like there's a bad way to hustle and there's a good way to hustle. And a lot of us we've been taught like, go get it, hustle, hustle, hustle. You got to make money, you got to make that. But nobody ever says take care of yourself in the process.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us are walking around with stiff bodies, not realizing it because it feels so normal to us because that's how we've been for a really long time.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the body, like when I started studying dysfunctional neurology, I started looking into like emotions and how they get stored in the body and like
Mhm.
traditional Chinese medicine and um, the meridians and how they relate to organs that relate to emotions. And so one of the biggest things that I had seen was um, the gallbladder and the liver are kind of with frustration and rage. Those are the things, the emotions that store in those areas. And so you can see people that can get a fatty liver, right? Like a fatty liver that they've never had alcohol. And that's what most people associate having a fatty liver with, is that you're constantly over taxing the liver, so with alcohol and having it to process all those things. But sometimes it's an emotional thing, and when we when we store so much of that emotion and we don't ever, quote unquote, deal with it or treat it head on, then those things can kind of store in that liver, and then we don't function as well. And then it starts to create fatty deposits around it. So there's a physical manifestation that happens through an emotional turmoil. So, yeah, like you said, like our bodies are going to be stiff. They're not going to work as well if we continue to hold that trauma and we don't ever heal it.
Agreed. So let's get into what is manual therapy and
Mhm.
why, with somebody who has that much trauma in their body. I mean, a lot of us don't really know it, but how can manual therapy help with that?
Yeah, so the manual therapy that I do, and just to kind of give a definition of manual therapy, is kind of using your hands, or sometimes they use tools to work on the tissues of the body or the different organs of the body. Um, so I kind of call myself a manual therapist because I'm not actually a licensed physical therapist, but I do have my massage license, but I don't do like your traditional massage, right? Like the oils and doing all that. So a lot of the manual therapy techniques that I've learned, I'm in the same classes as chiropractors, physical therapists, osteopathic physicians, all those people. So I'm learning alongside them. And the techniques that I've found to be the most effective through those certifications have been something called fascial counterstrain. And what we do is we actually treat the fascia that is surrounds all of the different structures of the body. So the nerves, the arteries, the veins, the bones, the organs, even into the brain. And so what we do is we kind of um, go into the structure and ease the tension. And so to give an example, if you've got like your zipper on your jacket and you're trying to zip it all the way up and it gets stuck, right? Traditional manual therapy that is more of what we call a direct technique would be to kind of just force that zipper through and just kind of get it to go all the way up. With this type of manual therapy, what we do is we actually bring that zipper down, allow the stuff to get out the way, and then we can zip it up. And so what
Mm,
we do is, instead of going to like a tight muscle, for example, we don't go in and kind of dig into it and try to like mash the tissue into submission. What we do is we actually shorten the muscle. And what that does is it allows the body to sense that it's, safe, and then it'll relax. And so, what I found with that, and some of the higher level practitioners actually work with PTSD,
mm,
post traumatic stress syndrome. what they do is they actually work on the nerves that go into like the adrenals, the ones that kind of help you produce adrenaline and cortisol, because those are very heightened in people that have PTSD. And so what we do is we treat the nerves that go in there to relax it so that it's not upregulating or making it more stimulating. And then what they do is after they get treated, then they go and do talk therapy. Now they're in a state where they can actually talk about certain situations without having a visceral response. So that's one way to do it. The other way was I actually learned some like um, bioenergetics. And so it's called, this is a crazy name, but it's called creative emotional wizardry. And this
Okay.
guy, this chiropractor, he kind of founded this and he used different styles and different techniques and kind of melded it together. And so some of the bioenergetic techniques were to kind of use your energy to help the person release some of that stored trauma. And so he has a whole chart that different emotions relate to different parts of the body, similar to the traditional Chinese medicine of the meridians and all that. And so you find a spot and then you kind of ask questions, right? So, for example, we'll go back to the liver and the gallbladder of frustration. So you go to those areas and you'll ask them, like, oh, do you feel frustration? Do you feel it in this area? Are you ready to let it go? Are you ready, willing, and able to let it go? And then you kind of hold your hand and feel the heat, and and there's something called witnessing, so you're trying to witness that energy leave their body, and so that kind of helps them release that stored trauma. But part of that, the issue with that is we can get rid of all of this stored trauma, but the problem is that we don't ever actually process it through our head, right? So we don't
Right.
ever get to that point, which is why um, kind of help leading you to it, but why I've partnered with a licensed clinical social worker and psychologist so that I can get the help for my clients to get more of that mental health aspect of it, and the psychology of it and the neuroscience of it, because it's not just a one-time thing and all of a sudden you're healed. There are three main aspects to healing, right? It's the mind, the body, and the spirit. And
Yeah.
so um, so a lot of my work, I've helped a lot of people with different traumas in their body, but there was always that missing piece of like, well, they get rid of it, but then eventually sometimes it comes back. Um, one of the other examples I had was one of my friends. He was treating one of his clients, and he treated her knee. She had a really bad knee pain, so he treated it, and it would get better, and then she'd come back and say, "Hey, it's back again." So he was kind of curious as to why that was happening. So he treated again. She felt better, and immediately right after, um, like at the end of the session, her mom calls, and then so she answers the phone
Mm.
and she says, "Oh, my knee hurts again." He's like, "Huh? I wonder what's going on here. Do
Yeah.
you have a good relationship with your mom?" She's like, "No, we have a really bad relationship." Like, and so we got to do that work as well, right? Because we can heal the body will heal. But if we keep those stored traumas and we don't ever process and deal with those things, then they'll just keep coming back.
Yeah, I agree. I've been telling some of my clients that um, there you can feel your emotions in your body. That's something I
Hmm.
recently when you're having different emotions, if you just pay attention to your body, you will feel it in different areas. And
Yeah.
that's how I've been able to like process my emotions because I feel
Hmm.
it and I'm like, oh, okay. So that's
Hmm.
why I feel like that there. And this is the person who's making me feel like that. So why are they
Yeah.
making me feel like
Hmm.
that? Which is great. But how do you, well, other than working with a psychiatrist, how do you infuse mind, body, and soul into what you're doing?
Yeah. So I try to take as much of a broad scope look at what they are doing. And so, when I do an assessment with somebody, I don't just look at like their movement. I don't just look at their joints. I look at everything. And so I can look at, lifestyle, like what job do they have? Is it stressful? What is their home life like? Is that stressful? What do they do to de-stress? what do they do when they are stressed? Like what are the strategies that they have to overcome stress and family life and work life and all the different balances? What are they feeding their body? Not only food, not only drinks, but also like, are you scrolling on TikTok all day? Are you watching TV that is super stimulating? Are you reading books that are super stimulating right before you go to bed? How is your sleep? Are you getting enough sleep? Um, what are you doing spiritually, right? Are you, you know, I don't want to be pigeonholing people, but like for me, I believe in God and I go to church and I pray and I do all those things. But some people want to do that with the universe, they want to do the earth, whatever it is. Are you doing something spiritually to re-energize yourself, to ground yourself, to make sure that you are, um, whole and getting into those practices? And so I take a look at all those things and then I find the gaps, right? Like figuring out like, okay, like you don't have a very good de-stressing strategy. Let's start to work on that. You don't have a good way of dealing with stress or coping with stress. And so different training modalities that I use will take people to that point of stress and bring it back down and let them deal with it. And then they start to learn like, okay, like I'm telling myself I can't do it, but I'm doing it. And then that's how they can process through that. Um, or maybe they just have dysfunctional movement that is causing them more pain. And so we treat that, we get the movement to be better, and then they're in less pain. They have less stress in their life. They have less inflammation in their body. They're able to digest a little bit better. So it's just things like that where from that holistic standpoint, we're not just looking at, okay, what is your body doing? We got to treat the body. What is your mind doing? We just got to treat your mind. Oh, what's your spiritual practice? You just got to treat that. We try to take care of all of those things in an effective way, right? It's not like you got to do everything and you got to do it now. It's over time, we got to take those practices and build it up to what their capacity is. Because some people will take on three things all at once and do it. Some people will see the three things and be like, I can't do it, and they'll just not do anything. But if you give them one thing to do and they focus on that, and then you build onto it and you build onto it, it seems to work a little bit better depending on the person. But yeah, that's kind of how I take that holistic approach and make sure that people can stick to it, because you can have the perfect diet, you can have the perfect fitness program, you can have the perfect church life, the perfect spiritual practice, but if you don't ever do it, then it's kind of worthless at that point.
It is, man. I don't know about you guys, but I have learned a lot so far already just from your conversation, of course, and hey, your mind can be your best friend or it could be your
Mm,
worst enemy. And
that's
that's
right.
why I always tell you, you have to, just like you work out your body, you have to work out your spiritual, your
Mm.
mental, even your emotional. And so, what would be a good routine for somebody, like say, first thing in the morning, their morning routine? What would be a good thing to get grounded for the day? Because I know for me specifically, I'm a 4 a.m. gym guy. Like I'm up
Nice.
and I'm letting my dogs out. That's typically the time I'm barefoot in the grass, getting grounded, just praying, because God is all in my life
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And so that's typically around that time I get to get all that in and go work out. But in your coming from your point of view, what would be a good like routine or some things that somebody can do to get to have that type of balance?
So I don't think you're gonna like the answer, but it always depends. Depends on the person, because some people don't like to wake up early. Some people don't wake up early. Some people work through the night. But I would say if you are a morning person, getting up and if time permits, get sunlight into your eyes, right?
Absolutely.
Sit with silence, because most people, I'm guilty of it too, but most people, right when they wake up, they look at their phone. And
Yeah.
so then it's like you're already on the go. You're already thinking about the emails, the texts, what do I have to do? I have to do this, I have to do that. But if you wake up and you sit with silence, set a timer, and I learned this from a book that I'm forgetting the name of now. If I remember, I'll send it to you. But it was I think she was a neuroscientist, and she called it the flashlight exercise. And so I don't know if there's anybody out there that has a really, really good attention span right now, but this is something to help with that. And so if you sit and you're breathing, just normal breathing, you don't have to do deep breaths, you don't have to do anything like that. You just breathe and you pick one aspect of that breath. So whether that's the cold or hot air going into your nose, the feeling of your chest rising or your belly rising, or just the feeling that you have the air coming in, you close your eyes and you just focus on one aspect of that. Set a timer for 2 minutes and stay focused on that. Don't go off and think about anything else. So try not to think about all the noises you're hearing. Just try to focus on that one thing. And if you can do that, then you can start to add time and try to sit a little bit longer. Ideally would be 10 minutes, right? To sit and just be with God, be with spirit, be with the earth, just be in silence. That can kind of set the tone for the day, right? Because now you're in a calmer state. You're in a state that if something stressful comes at you, you're like, okay, let's deal with it. Versus like looking at my phone, I got to do this, I got to do that, and then something even more stressful happens, and you're already stressed out of your mind, right? So if we can sit with silence, and for at least 2 minutes, right? Just sitting with silence, focusing on one thing and one thing only, that would be an ideal morning to start.
I will say for my beginners, it is hard.
Oh yeah.
It definitely is hard when you first
Hmm.
starting out. Because there was times I would try and I would think about something I had to do later. And
Yep.
now it's been a while, so now I'm really good at it. But when I first started, it was like, okay, I have to do this today. Wait, don't think about that. Do this, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so
Yeah.
used to always being on the go that we don't know when to slow down. And a lot of us are
Yeah.
just racing in the wrong direction, not
Yeah.
realizing it.
Hmm.
And that's why I always tell people like, treat your body right, eat right, work out. I'm a big advocate for therapy. Go to therapy, like heal
Hmm.
some of these things because we have to realize too that there's another voice in our head that it's not even ours. It's just going.
Yeah.
I've noticed that during my journey where I will like something will happen and I'll have a random thought that makes no sense, but it kind of like take me down a spiral. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this doesn't even make sense. I had to learn to quiet that voice.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that did help from being able
Hmm.
just to have that peace of mind like every morning. But some people, like
Hmm.
you're right, some people may not be that 4 a.m. morning, that 8 a.m. Some people might wake up at 12. But
Yeah.
I've also been learning about circadian rhythms and how it affects our
Hmm.
bodies. And a
Yeah.
lot of what people really do not know is when you pick up your phone, you're introducing so much blue light to your body that once you look at it, your body thinks that it's like noon. And
Hmm.
that's why a lot of people's energies are off.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, everything is like Bluetooth now, Wi-Fi everywhere. It's like blue lights everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I can see how it damages the body, and also the mind. But I want to get into your collaboration with the psychiatrist.
Hmm.
Uh, I remember you told me you were creating a course. What could be expected from this?
From the course. So it's called Neuro Body Balance, and we kind of named it that specifically because she's a neuroscientist and I kind of work on the body. Um, and basically, what it is to help people kind of understand their body and their mind so that they can control it versus it controlling you, right? Um, it's an 8 module course that we are um, putting out for the week, and then at the end of it, we're gonna do a debrief. Both of us will be on Zoom and helping you guys really understand that first module, second module, third module, fourth, all the way down to the eighth. And by the end of it, you'll understand all of the things from, um, you know, childhood, generational trauma, to like what we talked about today, like how our body stores emotions and where it stores emotions and what organs and how the organs are related to muscles and how we can really try to figure out how to heal those things. and different training modalities to kind of help with that. I mentioned one where we're taking you to a stress level that you think is a 10 out of 10 and bringing you down to a 8 to 6 out of 10, and really staying in that and going through those things, right? Um, and using the neuroscience um, techniques of what we call like neuro affirmations, and using that through that exercise. Because it's one thing to do that exercise and to be aware of it, but it's another to have a tool of, whether that's breathing or telling yourself you can, or whatever it may be for you that helps you keep going, but staying at that same intensity, and not letting your mind get too stimulated. Um, but we also talk about the spiritual part of things, using God as kind of a place to kind of get grounded and to really lean into, right? Because we're not in control, right?
Yeah,
Um, and
not a lot.
so yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a great course. We're gonna try to help as many people as we can, and um, yeah, and really just, you know, drive the home the idea of it's not just the mind, it's not just the body, and it's not just the spirit. It's got to be all three, and all working in harmony and in balance.
Yeah. Um, and there's a word, there's a Greek word for diet, because when we think of diet, we think of like food. Everybody's mind goes straight to
Hmm.
food, right?
Hmm.
But the Greek word for diet is actually diaga, which means way of life. Like, how is your
Mm.
entire way of life? Like, that's why I always say I'm a holistic health coach, because I want to hit all aspects. Like you said
Yeah,
earlier, we can talk about physical, but if your mental and emotional is not there, you're not going to do the physical, right?
that's right. Yeah.
And so what is, if you could give us one mental, one physical, and one spiritual shift that somebody can make today, a beginner can make today, to help make that step, what would it be?
Yeah. So I think physically wise, um, go do something hard.
Nah.
Something, and that's relative, right? Like hard for someone who doesn't work out, doesn't move a lot, go for a walk. Go for a
Hmm.
walk that is longer
In the
than
sun.
you think you can in the sun. Yes, exactly. Mentally, lean into struggle. I think we have created a culture of shying away too much from struggle, and we've got this like negative connotation to it. But just like with exercise, right? Like we can't gain muscle if we don't take it to a point where we think we can't anymore, but we push it a little bit more, and then all of a sudden now our muscles are a little bit bigger because we're building that uh, the the body to take an adaptation to it, right? And so we've got to build that resiliency through doing the hard things, doing the things that we don't think we can, but we push ourselves to do it, and and we can accomplish a lot more than we think, right? And then spiritually, just like I said, and before, like take 2 minutes, sit in silence, be with God, be with the Spirit, be with Earth, and really just there's no goal, there's no you know means to an end. It's just to just be, right? And sit there for 2 minutes, or as long as you can, as long as time permits. um,
Right. Especially we
but yeah.
busy people with kids and stuff. I know
Yeah.
it's you got to
Oh
balance it
yeah.
somehow, but
Yep.
prioritizing yourself is definitely the best way to do it. But
For
even in
sure.
your answer, you can see how all three of them combine. And that's why I wanted
Mm.
to ask you like that, because
Yeah.
you said do something hard for physical. That can also
Hmm.
build your mental too, because you have to
Hmm.
mentally tell yourself, I can do it. One of the things that I love to do now, and at first I was like, absolutely not, was cold plunging.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, at first I was like, yeah, I'm great. Cold water,
Mm.
cool. The first time I did it, I was in it for maybe like 2 minutes. Now I'm at the
Oh
point
wow.
where I can get there for 10 minutes. And I'm actually excited. I'm
Nice.
going tomorrow, actually. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
And so have you read the book, The Compound Effect?
I have not. I've seen. I thought I was gonna get it, but I didn't get it yet. No.
Yeah, it's I actually just finished it this morning. It's a really good book.
Nice.
But even in that book, he tells you like when you're working out, for example, when you
Hmm.
feel your body getting to that point where you're saying, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore," do at least two more reps, and then you're going to continue to get better and better at it. And over time, those extra reps will compound and multiply your results. So
Yeah.
a lot of people get to that point of like, "Oh, I can't do it anymore," and then they stop.
Hmm.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
counterproductive because you're not really pushing yourself,
Yeah.
and you're training yourself to stop as soon as you
Hmm.
get to the hard point. And think
That's
about
right.
success, especially as a business owner, as a parent. There's going to be some hard times, there's going to be some easy times, but we definitely have to learn to just push past those.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
But so with what are some of the most common challenges you see in your clients?
Common challenges.
If
I
you could
would
pick one.
say, yeah, so many. I'm just kidding. Uh, I would say self-confidence is probably
Okay.
one of the bigger ones. Um, and then because I do work with a lot of chronic pain, there's a lack of hope. Um, and so that's kind of what I wanted to bring to people is, because a lot of people that I see, a lot of the certifications that I've got, all of them had the same kind of theme of like all of the practitioners there were like they've seen all the doctors, they've seen all the physical therapists, they've seen all the chiropractors, the acupuncturists, everything, and nothing's working for them. And with each certification they took, it's like, oh yeah, they saw everybody, they saw me, and then they got better. And so that theme kind of kept coming. So I was kind of the hope manual therapist at that point, like many people when they're in that chronic pain, they don't they're at the point of giving up. And so being that hope for them that things can get better and they can get out of pain has been kind of the thing that I've seen them struggle with. And then self-confidence of knowing that they can, you know, succeed and get to, the goal weight they want to get to be able to play with their grandchildren, to um, do a pull up, whatever it is, right? When they build that self confidence and they build that hope, then it's a game changer.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's that sounds about typical. Like a lot of I hear that a lot. No, I don't do manual training, of course, but I do hear that a lot when just in conversations,
Hmm.
especially like from a lot of older people. I just want to be able just to see my grandkids and run with my grandkids, or I just want this, I want that, and it's good to have that why. So
Hmm.
let's dive into that. Having a why for your
Hmm.
transformation, for just the motivation to keep going. Why is that important?
Um, I think it's when I have conversations with people and I do go through that exercise, that book by Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Mhm.
He talks about asking why 5 times. So like, why do you want to lose weight? Oh, because I want to fit in my clothes and summer's coming. Okay, well, why is that important? Oh, because, I'm going to see my friends and I want to be confident. I want to know that I look good. Okay, well, why is that important? Oh, like I want to find a guy or a girl or whatever it is. Okay, and then why is that important? Oh, because I feel lonely. I don't feel like um, I want to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I want to find somebody. Oh, okay, well, why is that important? Oh, because I want to start a family. So it takes 5 whys at least, could be more, but it takes five
Yeah.
whys for them to realize like, oh, this is the real reason why I want to lose weight is because I want to find love and I want to have family.
Yeah.
And so if we don't ever get to that point, then if the surface level things will phase out, right? Okay, if I don't look good, then I won't go to the beach. If I don't look good, I won't go hang out with my friends. It's kind of like brushed off. But it's like if I want to find love and I want to start a family, I gotta I gotta put in work. I gotta go do it. Like that's a bigger motivation than the surface level stuff. And I always call it their North Star because I preface a lot of the conversations of building a program for them as things are going to get hard. Things are going to
Right.
come up. Life is going to happen, and you have to be prepared. If you're not prepared for those things to happen, then you're going to give up. So using that deep why as to why you want to do whatever it is that you want to do is going to be your North Star that keeps guiding you when you're going through the forest, or you're going through tall weeds, you're going through all these things, and there's going to be obstacles in your way. You can still look up and know that your North Star is, you're going towards it, right? Or knowing that you're not going the right way, right? And so I think it's the most important thing, especially having a conversation around it, because some people may think they know their why, but if you ask them and continuously ask them until you can't ask anymore, then they don't really know their real why.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But that why is important, that North Star, that guidance.
Hmm.
It helps you get up, even when you
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah.
And you realize that after a while, it becomes your routine and not just you just doing something just to do it.
Yeah.
Because even with myself, I found that out. Like now, I'm at the point to where I'm like, all right, I want to stay healthy for these X, Y, and Z reasons. And then so it's like when those mornings I don't want to get up and go to the gym, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna lay here. And it's like
Yeah.
after 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I can't do this myself. I have to
Yeah.
get up and go.
Yeah.
And that's why you need that why. That's why that why is super important to pretty much your entire habits, everything that you're doing. Um, but if you could give my audience one challenge for this week,
Mhm.
to try something new, or it could be anything related to what you said, or just throw one out there. What would you give us?
Hmm. I mean, I always go back to that flashlight exercise because I think it's one of the hardest things, especially nowadays with
Patience.
social media and just that dopamine kick that we get for every 10 seconds.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just so difficult. Like, and like some people have ADHD and they've got all these things like that are in their way, but the more you practice, the better you get, right? Perfect example is for you, right? Like you said, it was really hard in the beginning, but now you're up to even longer. And so I would challenge everyone to set a timer for 2 minutes, focus on one aspect of breathing, and stick with that as long as you can and hold on to it. And I think the other caveat to that, which she says in the book, is like, don't like punish yourself for thinking about something else. Just gently bring it back, right?
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee everyone is gonna start thinking about something else in the first 10 to 15 seconds, which is okay.
Yeah.
Think about it, oh, and bring it back. Thinking about something, oh, bring it back. And just do that for 2 minutes, and do that for the next 7 days and see what happens.
I agree. It is hard because you start to think about things, but that's where grace comes in. Yeah, because you have to
Mhm.
give yourself grace. And
That's
I have
right.
learned it for myself. We're learning something new. We're into new territory. We don't know what to expect. That's
Hmm.
why, like, when I talk to people and they be like, "Oh, I'm preparing for my kids." Like, how are you preparing for something you don't know what you're doing?
Hmm.
Like, you can have all the money and X, Y, and Z in the world, but you do not know how that child is going to come out. And it's the same thing
Yeah.
with life. Like, just you never really know what's going to come out of you sitting there for 2 minutes and thinking about it. And it's like, oh, I can't do it. It's like you really can, but you're telling yourself that
Hmm.
you can't, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to add to that challenge for you guys. So, and for start off with the 2 minutes, deep breathing. You can even do it with guided meditation. That's how I started to do it, actually.
Hmm.
But on top of that, try something new this week. Um, take the cold plunge challenge if if you're down for it. Give me at
Hmm.
least 2 minutes in it, and then we'll go from there. But definitely take our challenges and really apply it to your life and journal. Write it down. Um, allow yourself to feel it, understand where you're feeling it, and just keep growing with it. Kyron, do you have anything else that you want to share with us?
No, I think we've said it all. I just wanted to hammer in the point of doing something hard. I think that's the most important thing that we try to avoid, right? Cold plunges, um, you know, that all those things that are difficult makes us that much stronger, right? That saying of what doesn't kill me makes me stronger is so prevalent now. And so I think that is one thing that I want to leave this with, is that if you aren't doing hard things, then we're getting softer and softer and softer. And that just makes stress that much bigger than us. And if we do the hard things and stress becomes smaller than us, and we can handle it even better.
Agreed. Agreed. Hey guys, remember, do the big three for me. Like, share, and subscribe. Send this to somebody you know will need to hear a conversation like this, so that way they can start to heal their healing journey. And just to give you guys feedback, comment, let us know how. Well, let me know how I can make the show better. Next week, I'm going to be bringing on the other half of this course, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting the physical now with a little bit of spiritual and mental, but we're going to really dive deeper into the mental. So make sure you guys subscribe so that you get all of the notifications when I drop episodes every Tuesday night. But nothing else. And Kyron, thank you for coming on. Let my audience know how they can get in touch with you, how they can follow you in your journey, and just follow your page and learn from you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. The social medias are at Control the Basics. And then my website is controlthebasics.com. But yeah, find me in all those social medias.
With that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. Just remember, treat yourself right, love yourself. We can hustle all day, but healing comes first. With that being said, good night.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's all good.